Con Jr. just asked me how much hugs cost in 1870. This your wife Peggy Hill's fault. The kind of thing we should cover up.
Yeah, it's time to talk about Harlottown. Hey folks, welcome to Squirrel Tactics. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out Squirrel History, the merch store, our Patreon, and if you're watching on mobile, hit the hype button. I don't know if it does anything, but hey, it's worth a shot. Anywho, let's do this. Harlottown. The title comes from the original name of Arlen, Harlottown. Yeah, kind of self-explanatory.
Harlottown, town of harlots. Call girls, malls, pink pants, prostitutes.
The episode is about Peggy uncovering the true origin of Arlen and the powers that be going in the absolute wrong direction with that information. It's also one of those episodes where Peggy is right until she suddenly becomes very wrong. But to be fair, it's not her fault, and I am a fan of Peggy in this episode. We start with the Hill family taking a hike, not the saying take a hike, they were actually walking on a nature trail. Something I'm surprised they got Bobby to do, though he seems to be enjoying it about as much as we'd expect him to. And Peggy isn't too impressed with the local wildlife herself. But Hank calls for them to push on because they were almost at the tea kettle, more specifically the tea kettle of the Mount, a rock formation that resembles, well, a tea kettle.
For years, this miracle of erosion has been a symbol of Arlen. Now, I know what you'll be thinking. Could Mother Nature carve a hill to look just like a tea kettle, or did early man help her out?
No one is sure if it was created naturally through erosion or possibly carved by people or,
by extraterrestrials in the remote past.
What matters here is that unfortunately when they get there, they find that the tea kettle hasn't exactly been kept up. Hank is rather distraught. I get it. Part of growing up is watching your world literally be torn down and replaced. The woods I played in as a kid have mostly been cut down. The roller rink where we had birthday parties was demolished years ago. The world moves on and, well, let's be honest, there's a reason that the word nostalgia comes from the Greek words for homecoming and pain. This was a place from Hank's childhood, and in addition to that, it's a point of local pride, which Hank is just brimming with. Later on, when he brags about how Arlen's water tower has more rivets than any other structure in Central Texas, we again see this geographical tribalistic pride. And this pride is also often connected with the area's history. In this particular case, the tea kettle had been a tourist attraction that had brought famous names and Texas Rangers to the area. We find out later that this isn't exactly the whole story, but we'll get to that. Anywho, Hank still isn't happy and is complaining to the guys about it. Dale, of course, goes in the direction we all knew he would go in.
I say since alien explorers constructed the tea kettle, it's their job to maintain it.
We can't wait for alien explorers to solve all our problems, Dale.
Hank is right, as was Bill when he said that they should march right up there and scrub that sucker clean, though he can handle his own bathroom.
Peggy and Nancy, you tackle the bathroom.
Hank, I'm going to need a pit hand to help with the barbecue.
We can be pit hands.
Pit hands!
Yeah, I've never felt more sorry for Peggy or Nancy than I did right then and there. Slight props to Bill, though, for wanting to get his bathroom cleaned. I mean, he did at least give it a shot, but yeah, he made that mess so he can clean it up. Now, the obvious solution here is for the guys to take it on as a project. That's totally up their alley. They get to do what they love, plus for them, they've got the whole civic duty thing. They get the pride of cleaning up a landmark. Again, that sounds like something they would totally do just for the sake of doing it. Except no, that's not what happened, because of course that's not what happened. Season 10 Hank wasn't as off-kilter character-wise as, say, Season 13 Hank became.
Remember when that old widow couldn't take care of her yard anymore? Who forced her to move? I did.
But he was already strained from some of his prime character parameters. Earlier season Hank would have just gone up there and cleaned it. This version wants to go to the mayor and get a city crew out there to clean it. I'm willing to bet that the tea kettle is outside Arlen city limits, so it'd be a county issue anyway. And Dale points out that the real person to talk to, if it is within the city limits, is in fact the city manager. So for a lot of places, the mayor is closer to a ceremonial position. Hell, in my city, it's considered a part-time position and they have a normal 9-to-5 job. Well, normal as in lawyer or doctor, but they still have a full-time job in addition to being the mayor. The city manager, however, is the one who, surprise, surprise, manages the city. They're the ones that handle all the day-to-day operations.
Is that the guy who turned the hoses on the street musicians? Good man.
Okay, yeah, that seems a bit excessive there, damn. Hank heads on down to see said city manager Vance Gilbert, who was voiced by Bill Lumbergh himself, Gary Cole.
Yeah. So I guess we should probably go ahead and have a little talk, hmm?
All right now, Lumbergh, I'm kind of busy. In fact, look, I'm gonna have to ask you to go ahead and just come back another time. I got a meeting with the Bobs in a couple of minutes.
I wasn't aware of a meeting with them.
Yeah, they called me at home.
And after showing off a photo of him and Cotton at the tea kettle, Hank expects Vance to send a crew up there pretty much immediately, as in he even checks the time on his watch. Okay, Hank, I think you're a bit off on how quick the government works there, buddy. You're thinking in terms of hours when you should be thinking in terms of weeks or months, hell, possibly years, or in this case, never. Because Vance makes a good point and hits the nail on the head as it pertains to Hank and his motives.
Should I spend the town's limited funds on fire engines and police cars, or on helping you recapture your childhood?
He also mentions that he had previously been the city manager for Henrietta, Oklahoma, which I'm sure Hank is at least familiar with, seeing as it's where Cowboys quarterback Troy Aikman went to high school. Peggy tries to buy his favor by offering an endorsement from the newspaper in the next election, to grease them wheels a bit, but city manager is not an elected position, so she gets nowhere with that. Now, I get why they wouldn't spend what money they had on something like the tea kettle. However, there's an easy way to fix this. 2 words: business sponsorship. Ever seen an Adopt a Highway? Well, adopt the tea kettle. By the way, fun fact, the Adopt a Highway program was created in Texas, and the first adoption was a section of Highway 69.
69, dudes!
Between Tyler and I-20 back in 1985. So just do the same thing. We know that Arlen has a Chamber of Commerce. That's the league that Team Strickland played softball in.
Chamber of Commerce is putting together a co-ed softball league. I want you to play and be head coach.
Head coach? like Tom Landry? I'm gonna need a moment here, sir.
Have the Chamber of Commerce hold cleanup events or fundraisers, or there's all kinds of ways to get the thing cleaned up. Hell, when they eventually do the whole Harlottown days, they have the business owners sponsor the event anyway, so, Having failed to get the city to help, Hank proclaims that he's gonna do it himself, which is what he should have done in the first place, and Peggy offers to write a story about it in the paper, though she is aware of the limited reach of the printed news.
I am not gonna let this go. If the city won't help me clean up the tea kettle, I'll clean it up myself.
And I will cover your story in the Bystander. I'll rally hundreds of affluent, active, slightly elderly readers.
She ain't wrong. It's not like we need newspapers for movie times and TV listings anymore, and even back then, newspapers were already in trouble.
They always leave us for television.
Hank suggests she do a story about the history of the tea kettle, which is what moves the plot forward. So she gets to it doing her research. Notice an old headline here about flooding in Central Texas. I told y'all it'd been going on for a while. And Bob Jenkins drops by her desk to see exactly what she's working on. And he tells her that the tea kettle is a dead story that people aren't interested in. Yeah, he is catty about it, but it's Bob Jenkins. That's just kind of how he is, and I think he's actually trying to help Peggy here. He doesn't want her to waste her time and energy on a story that might not even get printed. He's probably doing this based off of personal experience. Meanwhile, Hank spends the day scrubbing the tea kettle by himself, making a small amount of progress, but progress is progress. Remember, one must not mark time, one must simply keep moving forward, and if he does a little day by day, he'll get that sucker cleaned faster than he thinks. Or if he gets the guys to help him, or if he busts out that power sprayer we've already seen them use to get rid of graffiti.
Look, we're all upset, but this guy hasn't licked me yet.
This is gonna be cool.
Here we go. This is the best day ever. Now it's fast.
You missed a spot.
I did? Nah, man, it just like that old shadow, man.
Just paint the rock with primer. It'll be fine and no more graffiti. Or they could use a pressure washer. I'm just saying, there are multiple ways to handle this other than one hard day and he's ready to give up. Which in and of itself does not sound like Hank. He's typically kind of the opposite when it comes to giving up.
We're not giving up. We just need to reach down deep and grab what's already in each and every one of us. We've got grit, guts, and determination, and we're gonna use them to rock this damn RV until he comes running out of it. Now let's do this, Zephyrs.
Uh-oh, the hair on my back is starting to tingle.
Your hair knows something you're about to find out. We're getting those kids their money.
Peggy tries to raise his spirits by talking about what she has learned about the tea kettle's history and how it was at one time a rather big tourist attraction, with the visitors including President Garfield and Mark Twain. Plus, she mentions that the Texas Rangers had built a fort next to it. But where are the remains of this fort? How has it not been better researched or possibly excavated? How does no one know about a fort that's remains are still probably there? I don't know, it just seems weird that there's an abandoned fort that there have to be remains for it there. Whatever. She also mentions that Arlen used to have a slightly different name.
Arlen used to be called Harlan, but over the years the H was dropped. Maybe someday Houston will become Houston.
Hey, all I'm saying is if humble is somehow humble, Houston can absolutely be Houston. By all means, I say we call it Houston. Let's start making this a thing. There are also these two ladies. One was a prominent pig farmer and the other was an advisor to the governor. And considering what we find out later, by advisor they probably meant
Work. Hello, boys. Have a good night's rest. I missed you.
Yeah, she was pulling a little bit more than just strings behind the scenes. That's all I'm saying. Peggy continues her digging, finding out about the older issues of the paper that are in a closet behind the break room refrigerator. That is when she finds out about Arlen's true founding.
Harlottown became Harlan because people were in such a rush to get here, they didn't have time to say Harlottown.
But the Texas Rangers.
They were John's, Hank.
Okay, so the original story of Arlen's founding and being named after Leland Goose Arlen isn't actually from the show, but rather from an interview with Hank Hill in the September 1997 issue of Texas Monthly after Hank was named as one of the Texas 20, or the 20 most influential or important Texans. It's my understanding that the interview is canonical, and in it, while listing off his Texas heroes, Hank says, and I quote, "Our town namesake, Leland Goose Arlen. Senator Goose, as he liked to be called, was the Tri-County's most distinguished legislator. He served 40 years in the State House and, after his conviction, another 10 in the Big House. Most people remember him as a drunk, a womanizer, a liar, and a thief, but he was more than just a great Texas politician. He was also a man of vision. If he hadn't bribed the Beltway Commission to build an exit ramp onto the land that he swindled from the farmers, Arlen wouldn't be here today. So he'll always be a hero to us, and I'd say that even if I didn't supply the propane to his eternal flame at the ROTC Veteran Cemetery." That was the original story, but then we and Hank learned the truth, which honestly, is it really that much worse than the original story?
And that's when the whores come in.
Excuse me, what was that?
Our beloved Arlen began life as the most notorious brothel in Texas.
What?
So 11 women set up a camp near a watering hole on the Chisholm Trail, and poof, we have Arlen. By the way, the idea that a city would be founded by a brothel popping up near a water source and or a thoroughfare is real, especially when it comes to cities in the West. You'd be surprised how often prostitution played a part in city foundings. And like with Harlottown, these brothels were run by women who were seen as pillars of their community. That's often how some of them got away with running a brothel when it wasn't exactly legal. A perfect example of this was the Chicken Ranch in LaGrange that was technically open from 1844 to 1973 with a gap in there for the Civil War. ZZ Top made a song about it.
Hey, Hank.
No.
Don't worry, Hank. We're just here selling butt-fours.
What's a butt? No.
It's the basis for the musical and movie The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas.
It's just a Billy Squad, no time country place. Nothing too high tone, just lots of goodwill and maybe one small thrill, but there's nothing dirty going on.
I'm pretty sure the Chicken Ranch is where the idea for this episode came from, but I could be wrong. Anywho, Hank was to take all of Peggy's research and destroy it, burying the story and the truth. This, at least in my opinion, is wrong. History ain't pretty, and again, prostitution was kinda important for a lot of towns. Like, if you were playing an Old West version of Sim City, the foundational buildings would be a saloon, a bank, a store, a jail of some sort of brothel and a church. Peggy thankfully stands her ground and follows through, the paper publishing the story, and yeah, it probably should have come with a disclaimer to put on a helmet before reading so it didn't make a mess when it blew your mind.
During the 19th century, the tea kettle was so popular that when a gentleman went to sample a harlot's wares, it was said that he had gone tea kettling.
The city manager surely read it, and he calls wanting to speak with Hank and Peggy immediately. And this always gave me the feeling of being the adult version of being called to the principal's office. You're pretty sure it ain't gonna be good. Hank starts off the meeting by apologizing, though he nor Peggy have anything to apologize for, with Hank clearly expecting Vance to not be too pleased. However, rather than be mad, he's actually pretty happy and excited, as happy and excited as I was when I found out that Cabot makes cheese spread. I get that might sound sad, but seriously, I am all about some spreadable cheese.
Boy, that cheese.
Just like Vance here is all about the revelation of Arlen's true founding and the opportunities that it opens up as it pertains to tourism and, more importantly, tourism dollars.
Hank, if we do not learn from the past, what's the point of even having one?
That's going in the brochure.
He uses Salem as an example, and it's a perfect example. Witch trials are bad. Witch trials 300 years ago, money. Though one difference I will bring up is that Salem tourism is considered seasonal with the fall, especially October for obvious reasons. Halloween, witch, magic, Halloween. And yes, of course, the leaves. But Salem has also had controversy when it came to steering away from history and more into the whole witch thing. In fact, around the time this episode came out, Salem was dealing with an issue after it was announced that a statue of Elizabeth Montgomery from Bewitched was being erected. Because, you know, Salem, witches, it's kind of their thing. Arlen has the same sort of decision to make as it pertains to what they focus on, be it history or prostitution. And they did what's been done pretty much every time this decision has to be made. Yeah, they chose sex. I mean, prostitution is the world's oldest profession. And they could steer into the prostitution part by going into the history of it. You know, like the legal brothels run by the government during the Civil War to cut down on the number of soldiers that were falling ill with VDs or venereal diseases. Yeah, this picture includes so many cases of the clap that the technical term for it is applause. Yes, I know I've made that joke before, but it's still funny to me. We don't know about them steering into the sex part quite yet, but Hank is still, I'm gonna say, aghast. And Peggy just wrecks his childhood by revealing one of those things that's obvious when you think about it.
You never objected to Miss Kitty on Gunsmoke.
What about her?
Come on. They had all those rooms upstairs. She didn't charge enough for drinks.
Oh, not Miss Kitty.
For those unaware, Gunsmoke was a radio program that was adapted into a television show that ran for 20 years. The TV show ran for 20 years. More specifically from 1955 to 1975. The radio show ran from 1952 to 1961. So Hank certainly grew up watching Gunsmoke. And one of the characters from Gunsmoke was Miss Kitty, the will they won't they love interest of Marshall Dillon. They never got together.
Don't you try bucking me, honey. As tough as you think you are, I'm a lot tougher. You're right. He is my man, and I'll do anything to keep him alive. Even to killing the likes of you.
Who was never expressly said to be a madam and or prostitute, but yeah, she was. It was even said in a Time article from either 1953 or 1959, I'm not sure because apparently they don't have that article up anymore, that she was, and I quote, obviously not selling chocolate bars. Hank is even more unhappy when Bobby starts asking questions he doesn't exactly want to answer.
What did the men do all day when the women were out prostituting?
Did your mother write another article?
No, it's my history homework.
Kinda odd and slightly surprising that the school would teach that either the day the story was released or rather soon afterward. I certainly do not see Carl Moss signing off on anything that could create controversy unless he was told or forced to.
Anything that can be used as a weapon is a weapon.
Well, that's just asinine.
Hey, my hands are tied. If I showed even a little bit of tolerance, we couldn't call it zero tolerance. I'm sorry, Hank.
Con also has an issue due to Connie asking questions, so they both team up and head on down to the city manager's office after Hank is informed that the city has already formed a committee.
Oh, God, now there's a committee? That's the last step before a task force.
Remember how I mentioned Hank thinking that the government moved faster than it does? Well, the exception to that is when the opportunity to make a crap ton of money is involved. Vance and Peggy are meeting with local business owners, more specifically Buck Strickland, Ted Wasanasong, and Lane Prattley.
Lane Prattley's a horse's ass.
Discussing the creation of a museum to cover Arlen's history, something I'm surprised that Arlen didn't already have. They're the county seat of Heinrich County, yet they don't have a city or county history museum? That's kinda odd, and seems like an issue that should be remedied. The Con and Hank connection interrupts them, but as soon as Con realizes that Ted is for what's going on, yeah, he changes sides right quick. Ted proposes that the upcoming Arlen Days festival be changed to Harlottown Days, which I actually think is a pretty cool idea for bringing the history aspect out, and it's really not that far out there. My hometown has a yearly celebration of a bank robbery and shootout, which includes a reenactment of said bank robbery and shootout, so again, it's not really that weird to me. I do love the barber pricing sign here. That reminds me of something else from Mike Judge. Hank, like the tree that's planted near the water, will not be moved, so he starts up a petition to stop Harlottown Days, and even kinda gets a compliment from Vance for his tenacity, though Hank is rather deflated when he sees just how many people are on board rather than on his side.
I thought this petition was in favor of the museum. I can't wait for Harlottown Days.
By the way, this fella right here is Mr. Coyle, and we've seen him before. Can y'all name where and when? If you said he was a customer at the Pink and White and Hank's back, you would be correct.
I know you got fresher milk back there. Put it out.
Yeah, he was the milk guy. So we fast forward to Harlottown Days, which everyone but Hank is enjoying, and I don't really see any issues here. Okay, the kissing booth is kind of weird, even for when the episode was made, though it should bear mentioning that Dale and Nancy met at a kissing booth, in middle school no less.
Even with the taste of 200 boys on her lips, that kiss was magical.
My opinion, as well as Peggy's, is changed when Vance makes an announcement unveiling not an Arlen History Museum, but rather a museum of prostitution. And based off the layout here, I think that the word museum is being used rather loosely because this seems more like an adult sex shop than a museum. Also, not a huge fan of the Newtown slogan, Arlen come up and see us sometime. I mean, why not just go with Arlen? We love you long time. Most of the populace are on board due to the promises of lower taxes and increased services. You know, the go-tos as it pertains to swaying the general public's opinion. It doesn't even cause an uproar when Vance announces that they would be the future hosting site for the Texas Adult Video Awards, which is not a real thing, by the way. There is an award ceremony for porn, but it's not a Texas version, well outside this. Come the night of the awards, Hank and Peggy decide to get out of Dodge until the porn people are out of town, taking Bobby with them on a trip to Durndal.
Why are we going to Durndal? No offense, Dad, but you're not a let's just go to Durndal kind of guy.
But along the way, they come across a couple of the performers whose limo is broken down on the side of the road. Hank nor Peggy want to stop, but Hank sees it as his duty to help someone in need no matter who that person is, which is the right thing to do. Also, something that's always bothered me here, where's the limo driver? These two, Candy Lace and Randy, maybe he's Randy Lace, I don't know, were voiced by Shannon Elizabeth and Stephen Root.
What's the problem, Randy? We did a whole movie about a flat tire.
I'm trying, okay?
You folks need a hand?
Hey, this part happened in the movie too.
Real quick, I need to make a correction on myself. In the Night and Deity review, I said Shannon Elizabeth voiced Sheila, but that was Janine Garofalo. Yeah, my apologies on that one. Hank changes out their tire. It didn't quite go the way that their car breakdown scenes normally go, but Hank figures out that the tire wasn't the issue, it was the transmission. But they tried to fix the transmission by changing the tire. It doesn't make sense, and seriously, where is the driver? This is a rented limo. There is a sign on the side of it, so where's the driver? Did the company rent a limo but not provide a driver? That does not sound right to me. Hank decides that these people are going to die if they are left to their own devices, so he decides to give them a ride to the award show, making a quick stop along the way to drop Bobby off with a visibly disappointed John Redcorn.
Bobby?
Hi, John Redcorn. Were you heading someplace?
I have a gala.
Well, I was hoping you could look after Bobby for a bit. It's kind of important.
I'm guessing his trailer was on the way, hence why they didn't take Bobby home or to one of their neighbors. Along the way, they all start talking, with Candy pointing out how much she liked Arlen, lamenting that she herself had come from a town like it before she began her adult career, but she couldn't return to it due to shame. This conversation more or less humanizes her to Hank and Peggy, who had viewed her before as nothing but one of those people. We also learn her career is coming to an end and that she's getting a Lifetime Achievement Award, which according to her is basically a send-off type of thing when the industry is done with you. She's unsure what to do moving forward due to the stigma from her past, and this makes something click in Hank's head. He reminds her that we aren't our past and that people can change. He uses the Arlen founders as an example of women with questionable pasts going on to accomplish great things. Candy realizes that her soon-to-be former industry is not a good thing for Arlen.
This is wrong, Hank. And believe me, I know wrong.
And they all decide to put a stop to things. Well, except for Randy, he falls asleep and doesn't catch any of the conversation. In fact, when Candy speaks out against the video awards during her acceptance speech, he looks as shocked as Vance does.
No offense, guys, but I don't want this kind of smut in my town.
Hank comes up to make a speech. I bet none of us thought we'd see Hank on stage in an adult video award show. And he talks about deciding which Arlen they wanted, the PG version or the X-rated version. Though to be fair, there are 2 ratings between those two, so there's a big gap there. And the crowd agrees with everyone signing the petition to get rid of the changes, including the mayor in his one and only appearance in the show. Plus, we get one of my favorite lines from Buck.
Kinda puts a new complexion on things when sleazy people think we're too sleazy.
We end the episode with Candy in the hills hiking up to the cleaned up tea kettle. In the end, it got cleaned up, even as it took a roundabout way to do it. And we learn that Candy has her boutique up and running, gifting the hills shoes that she has decorated. Props to Hank here, because I know he hates wearing those shoes, but he's being supportive in doing so.
Can I get you another pair of shoes?
No, these are fine.
Fine? They're great.
So, Harlottown, a really good, memorable episode about how we deal with the past when we learn that it ain't exactly how we thought it was, and when some less than ideal facts are discovered. It also says a lot about the commercialization of controversial history. I mean, seriously, Salem is basically just Halloween, witch, magic, Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Though I'm not knocking them, make your money, y'all need it. They don't call it Taxachusetts for nothing. And to be fair, I don't see Salem trying to host a horror porn award show. The award show aspect was really where Vance's plans kind of jumped the shark for me. He was more focused on sensationalism and courting controversy as opposed to showcasing history and the women who made Arlen possible. It became less about the 11 female founders of Arlen who may have started out in what's often a look down on occupation, but they used that time and energy to become more, to become founders and builders, to become leaders and arguably forgotten heroes. Their stories are actually, uplifting as opposed to Leland Goose Arlen's, which, well, isn't. I do wish we'd gotten to see more of Candy, or whatever her actual name was, it never says, later in the series. Maybe show her boutique up and running, maybe use her boutique as an opportunity to bring back a character as an employee like Tammy Duvall, a person who dealt with some of the same types of trying to move on from the sex industry issues that Candy was. Both women came to understand that they were better than just being viewed and used as an object. Could have been interesting, and a more contemporary version would be women using OnlyFans because most of them cannot do it forever. This episode is a classic, so many amazing lines. Peggy is seriously the MVP here. She carries the episode, and does so rather well. Kudos on that there, Peggy. Hank may have eventually become right, but he did not start off that way, though I do like how he comes to accept Candy. Seriously, him wearing those shoes is a big gesture from somebody like Hank. Over Overall, great episode, one I would recommend to people, and if nothing else, we got Hank trying to talk Bobby into wrangling his friends into working.
Let me tell you what I like and don't like about that idea.
Thanks for watching, folks. We'll see y'all next time.
I'm going to Harlottown, where the gals treat a gent with 2 dimes like a king. Yes, Harlottown, where you only have to ask to get most everything.